a rising athlete. A story that inspired millions. A man who refused to let anything hold him back. But on a quiet night in Maryland, that same man became the center of something unthinkable. A heated argument inside a moving car. 2 gunshots. And a body left in the dark. What happened in those final moments? And how did a celebrated survivor end up accused of murder? This is a story where admiration turns into shock, and where the truth is far more unsettling than anyone expected. Just days before the headlines exploded, Dayton Webber was known for something entirely different. He was a competitor, a champion, a man whose life story had already defied impossible odds. At just 10 months old, Webber survived a severe bacterial infection that led to sepsis, an ordeal that ultimately resulted in the amputation of all 4 of his limbs. Doctors saved his life, but the road ahead was anything but ordinary. And yet he refused to be defined by it. Over the years, Webber built a reputation as an athlete. First in youth wrestling, then on a national stage, competing in professional cornhole tournaments through the American Cornhole League. With events broadcast on ESPN, his determination, independence, and skill turned him into an inspirational figure. Someone people rooted for. But everything changed on a Sunday night in southern Maryland. According to investigators, that night ended with a 27-year-old man named Bradrick Michael Wells dead, shot during an argument inside a car driven by Webber. Within hours, what should have been just another local incident turned into a national story, because this was not just about a killing. It was about who was accused of committing it. A man once celebrated for overcoming unimaginable hardship was now facing charges of first-degree murder. The contrast was jarring, and for many, almost impossible to process. Friends, fellow players, and even those who barely knew him were left asking the same question. How does a story like this take such a dark turn? And what really happened inside that car? To understand that, we have to go back. Before the violence and before the headlines. There were just 4 people in a car, driving through southern Maryland. At the center of what would become a fatal night was 27-year-old Bradrick Michael Wells. Wells was from Waldorf, Maryland, and to those who knew him, he was not a headline or a statistic. He was a friend, a familiar face, someone who had a place in people's lives. On that Sunday night, he was simply a passenger, sitting in the front seat of a car among people he knew. Investigators later confirmed that everyone inside that vehicle was connected. They were not strangers. They were friends. That detail makes what happened next even harder to process, because moments before his death, Wells was not in danger from a random encounter. He was inside a car, surrounded by people he trusted. The setting itself was quiet. Charles County, Maryland, just outside Washington, D.C., is not typically the backdrop for national crime stories. It is a mix of suburban neighborhoods, local roads, and close-knit communities where incidents like this feel rare and almost out of place. On the night of the shooting, the group was traveling through the La Plata area along ordinary routes familiar to locals. Nothing about the environment suggested what was about to unfold. And then there was the driver, Dayton Webber. Before that night, his name carried a very different meaning. He was widely known as a story of resilience. After losing all 4 limbs as an infant due to a life-threatening infection, Webber grew up learning to adapt to a world not built for him, and he did more than adapt. He competed in youth wrestling, traveled across states for cornhole tournaments, and eventually reached professional status in the American Cornhole League, winning regional championships across multiple states. Those who played alongside him described someone fiercely independent. He modified his own car, sometimes using prosthetics and sometimes steering with his elbows. He did not want help, and he did not need it. To many, Webber represented determination in its purest form, proof that limitations did not define a person, which is exactly why this case hit so differently. When news broke that Dayton Webber had been arrested for murder, it did not feel like just another crime story. It felt like two completely different realities colliding. On one side, a man remembered as driven and inspirational. On the other, a 27-year-old victim whose life ended in a sudden violent moment. Two lives, one night, and a series of events no one saw coming. It was Sunday night, and while the exact moments leading up to the violence are still unclear, investigators do know this. 4 people were inside a car moving through Charles County, Maryland. Dayton Webber was behind the wheel. Bradrick Wells sat in the front passenger seat, and 2 others were in the back. At some point during that drive, something changed. An argument began. No one has publicly confirmed what it was about, and no clear motive has been identified. But according to investigators, the disagreement between Webber and Wells escalated quickly. Voices were raised, tension built inside a confined space, and there was nowhere to go. Authorities say Webber allegedly pulled out a handgun and shot Wells twice in the head, inside the car and in front of the 2 passengers sitting just feet away. In an instant, the situation crossed a line it could never return from. Wells was mortally wounded, and the argument was over. What happened next shocked even investigators. After the shooting, the vehicle came to a stop near Radio Station Road and Lano Drive. It was there, according to police, that Webber allegedly turned to the 2 passengers and asked them for help moving the body. They refused. Instead, they got out of the car and ran. Shortly after, around 10:25 at night, those same witnesses flagged down a passing police officer. They were shaken and urgent, telling authorities what they had just seen: a shooting inside a car with the victim still inside. But by then, Webber was gone. Investigators say he drove away from the scene with Wells still in the vehicle. For nearly 2 hours, there was no confirmed location, no immediate arrest, and no recovery of the victim. Then another call came in. A resident in Charlotte Hall reported something disturbing. A body had been found in the yard. When deputies arrived, they discovered Bradrick Michael Wells, who was pronounced dead at the scene. The distance raised new questions about what happened during those missing 2 hours, and why that location was chosen. Investigators moved quickly. They had witness accounts, a suspect, and now a victim. A warrant was issued for Dayton Webber's arrest, but he was no longer in Maryland. By the time law enforcement tracked him down, he was in Charlottesville, Virginia, nearly 150 miles away, at a hospital seeking treatment for an unspecified medical issue. After being discharged, he was taken into custody without incident. In just a matter of hours. The situation escalated from an argument inside, a car to a multi-state manhunt, and an arrest tied to a fatal shooting. By the time authorities arrived in Charlotte Hall, the situation had already shifted from urgent to irreversible. Bradrick Michael Wells was dead, and his body had been found far from where the shooting was first reported. This case did not begin in confusion. It began with witnesses. The 2 passengers in the back seat came forward immediately, giving investigators a first-hand account. They described an argument, a sudden escalation, and gunfire inside the car. They also stated that after the shooting, Webber asked them to help remove the body, and when they refused, they fled and reported everything. With those statements, authorities moved quickly. Deputies canvassed the initial area for physical evidence, while another team focused on the second location where the body was found. The distance between the 2 points became central to the investigation, suggesting deliberate movement after the shooting. A timeline began to take shape, but gaps remained. Around 10:25 at night, witnesses reported the shooting. Later, the body was discovered miles away. What happened in between has not been publicly detailed. An arrest warrant was issued for Dayton James Webber on charges including first-degree murder, second-degree murder, assault, and the use of a firearm in the commission of a felony. The search for Webber extended across state lines until authorities located him in Charlottesville, Virginia. He was found at a hospital and taken into custody after discharge. As the case unfolded, one aspect drew significant attention. Despite the evidence, key questions remained unanswered, including the motive and the details of the argument. As the story spread, public reaction shifted. At first, the facts seemed straightforward, but the identity of the suspect added a layer of complexity. Dayton Webber was not an unknown figure. He had been seen as an inspiration. Questions emerged about how the crime was physically carried out, but videos showing his independence changed the narrative. Even those who knew Webber struggled with conflicting emotions, caught between who they believed he was and what he was accused of doing. This case became one defined by contrast: an admired athlete and a violent crime, a sudden argument and a life lost. At its core, the case comes down to a single moment inside a moving car. Investigators say that moment began with an argument and ended with 2 gunshots. According to witness accounts, Webber pulled out a handgun and shot Wells at close range inside the vehicle. What followed reinforced the gravity of that act. Instead of calling for help, he allegedly asked others to assist in removing the body. They refused and reported the crime. Webber then drove away with the victim still inside the car. A reminder of how quickly everything can change. In the end, this case leaves behind more than charges. It leaves questions about how a familiar situation can turn into something irreversible. For many, the hardest part is the contrast. Dayton Webber was once seen as an inspiration, yet now stands accused of taking a life. At the same time, Bradrick Michael Wells is no longer here to tell his side. Families on both sides are left dealing with the consequences. What remains is a reminder that people are often more complex than the stories we tell about them, and that in just a few seconds, everything can change forever.